the Sage Sisters listeners and viewers. This episode is number 14, and we are talking about an anti-Nazi in America movie called Keeper of the Flame, and uh, it stars Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, and it's from 1942. And actually, it was released in December of 1942, but I think they were
Right.
filming it in 1941 before the United States got into the war,
Yes.
because the storyline is Stephen McO'Malley, Spencer Tracy's character, has just come home from Europe where the Nazis are eating up everything, taking over all the
Right.
and he's been trying to get the United States, people in the United States, to realize that the Nazis are a threat and they might even come try to take over the United States. Do you want
Right.
to read the description? Do you have the description?
I do. Do you want the short version or the long version?
Oh,
Is there
which one ever is better? Which
Okay. Journalist Steve O'Malley, Spencer Tracy, wants to write a biography of a national hero who died when his car ran off a bridge. Steve receives conflicting reports and tales that make him question what the truth is about this hero.
Yeah, now you were saying before we started recording that you hadn't seen it for a long time. So,
Yeah, I remember years ago seeing it, and I know that Turner Classic Movies does show it.
yeah, they do.
Um, and so there were some details about it I had forgotten, but I had always remembered I really liked the movie because, and the other thing this is their Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn's second film together.
Right.
The first one was Woman of the Year, where they fell in love. Um, but I think there's some really great things about this movie that it's not your typical movie because there is no romance heavy.
Mm-mm.
It's just telling the story of Steve trying to learn more about, I mean, because the nation is mourning the loss of this man,
Of Robert Forrest is
of
his name.
Robert Forrest. And,
Yeah.
he was thought of as he was a hero in World War One, and ever since he got home, everyone just thought he was everything.
Yeah.
He saved lives during the war, and he even
He
had a
ran
man working for him that was his commanding officer,
in the
and
war that he
during the
saved.
first war that he had saved.
Hmm.
So there's some stories that they develop and talk about what
Yeah.
happened with that, but you get the feeling with the whole time, they're setting it up with all the newspaper because the movie starts where you see the car drive off the bridge because the
Yeah.
bridge has been broken in a storm,
Right.
and obviously not a very sturdy bridge. And so they let you know right away because of all the newspaper ads that pop up on the screen that an American hero has died in a crazy accident. And so you're getting the feeling right away that you obviously, if you're keen on movies, that there's something else going on.
Yeah. And but the other thing is it's sort of like when John F JFK was killed. It's that
Yes,
feeling.
it is
It's
that
that
feeling.
it's that
Very
feeling.
true.
And everyone's in shock. And
Yeah,
so the when we first see Steve O'Malley, he is in the hometown of
the
Robert
hero.
Forrest, and it's his funeral day, and the streets are just lined with people
Oh, and
for the
reporter.
whole route of
Yeah.
the
I
where
mean,
the
journalists have just, there's no hotel
descended.
space because they've descended onto this community, and um it's kind of a crazy madhouse.
It is.
And I love Spencer Tracy because he does such a good job of, I wonder what the big deal is.
Well, I thought that
He's
he,
kind of like, he's watching everybody. And I think at first he just wants to tell he wants to just tell his story. I
yeah,
think that's just simply what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think he is one of the people who thinks that Forrest is a huge hero.
Yes.
That's why he
Yes.
wants to tell his story. And I would this time when I was watching it, I was noticing they leave little crumbs
They do. They do.
about,
Right.
oh, wait a minute, something's not quite right here.
Yeah. And
And
even
one
and Steve picks up on it pretty quickly.
Yes, yes. But he's confused
Yes.
because he does feel like Robert Forrest is this pillar of
Right. Right.
society and a leader, and he's one of the American heroes. And when I was looking at the trivia, Robert Forrest is based on Charles Lindbergh, who was a
Yes.
huge
Right.
hero in the United
Right.
States,
Right.
but he was anti-Semitic and he was part of, I think it was called America First
America First
group,
Coalition.
which
Yeah.
did not want to get into the war. I think they
Right.
were even maybe a Nazi
Yeah,
organization.
they were. They were. I thought it was interesting. I was reading about Lindbergh because I don't know why I mean, you see stories about Lindbergh all the time. And of course, even in the movie that Jimmy Stewart played him,
Yeah,
Pride of St. Louis, it was before they just told that story, right?
right,
But they don't continue his story
right.
on how anti-Semitic he was and how pro-Nazi he was. I mean, he was
Yeah,
in for the pure race
yeah.
and had huge committees. As a matter of fact, they came to him and wanted him to run for president
Mhm.
against Franklin Delano Roosevelt
Yeah.
because they wanted a strong opposition to these liberals.
Yes, and I thought it was very interesting that the Republican Party did not like this
I
movie at
know. I thought that was
all.
interesting too.
It,
Very interesting. They didn't even want it to air. They didn't want it to be in
mm,
theaters.
mm.
It was a big deal. So
But this is the interesting thing is it made the equivalent of 15 point million in
yes.
2019. It was very popular when
It
it
was
came
it
out.
yeah, and when it came out in 1942, uh the studios, because George Cukor was the director, and
Hmm, hmm,
he knew. He had a
hmm.
feeling there's something about this story that needs to be told.
Yes,
And at the time they're like, nobody cares about the Nazis. They're not going to
right,
come over here. This is
right.
a story that's a nothing story. I mean, literally, it's amazing that it even got made.
I know. Well, it's like down the list of
Right.
anti-Nazi
Yeah.
warning about the Nazi threat movies, and here are only three of them. Foreign Correspondent. Oh, wait, excuse me. First, Confessions of a Nazi Spy in 1939.
Right.
Foreign Correspondent by Alfred Hitchcock in 1940.
Yeah.
And The Mortal Storm, I forgot to look up what year that came out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, and I saw an interview with Robert Stack before he died because he was one of the young soldiers
right.
that plays one of the young soldiers in the movie Immortal Storm,
Yeah.
and he goes, "None of us had any idea what kind of movie we were making."
Yeah.
It was so early on. Although when you read about Foreign Correspondent, Alfred Hitchcock, being a Brit, knew exactly what story he
Right.
was telling.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
completely aware of what was to come.
Yes.
He
Yes.
really knew.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think George Cukor and other people involved in this story, and there was a book. It's from a book.
Yeah. It's based on a
And
book.
I read further about the author, and they were writing the book as kind of a warning.
Right.
You know, stand up and pay attention, people, because something's going on here.
Yeah.
And these things actually happen.
Yeah. And
They
it,
recruit people
yeah.
and groom them. And then it was interesting too. I read about Lindbergh and this, being a part possibly of this story is by the time we got involved in World War II, there were 800,000 Americans that were part of the anti-Semitic
Yep.
coalition, the
Yep.
America First coalition.
Yeah.
I thought that was a huge amount of numbers.
Well, I can't
My
remember
gosh.
where I saw this, but it was shortly after. the some people call him the orange whatever. After our current president was elected, they were showing 1940s video
Oh yeah.
film
Yeah.
of the National Nazi Party convention. I think it was in New York,
I think
and it was
it wasn't at
huge.
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. It was at Madison. It
Yeah.
was huge. It was
It was
huge.
huge. Yeah. It and I think they said Lindbergh was like the key speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, you know, to have when you think about that, and the more I read, of course, my daughter knew, Ariel. She was like, "Oh yeah, Lindbergh was oh my," and his wife, his whole
Mm-hmm.
thing, you know, and so. You know, there's a mystery behind, you know, the whole Lindbergh baby being kidnapped and eventually found in the woods not far from his home. And his baby had a lot of health issues, rickets, and people have suspected that maybe even Lindbergh could have been a part of that because the baby wasn't a pure,
Oh,
perfect baby.
oh, that's
Yeah, and that's devastating to think that. You just go, that's heavy.
that is.
That's
Yeah.
really like, whoa, you know.
So I love the way that they stack up the little clues
Oh, they do such a
for
good job.
Stephen
It's just
to
so good.
acknowledge or to
Yeah. Well,
discover.
and they do such a good job because it's it's so subtle. If you're
Yes.
not really paying attention, you're like, why is he thinking that there's something more to this?
Yeah.
Well, one of the major things that's very obvious is the day of the funeral. And he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to his widow."
Right.
Everyone's like, "Oh, you're no, she's off limits.
They're
The
not going
whole
to let you
house is
talk to
off
her.
limits. You will you maybe you can talk to his secretary.
Right.
Maybe. But, you know, he eventually, you know, he finds his way to sneak into the place
Mm-hmm.
for help of that little boy who feels like he really looked up to Forrest and felt like it was his fault. Such anxiety, that poor little guy.
I
But he
know.
helps him sneak in to the house to the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah. Now this is another really interesting thing is the kid who's maybe 10
Oh gosh, he might be 10. Yeah.
or maybe he's 11. Um he worshiped Robert Forrest,
Yes,
but
he
he
did.
never says that Robert Forrest came to play chess with him or when he was
Right.
sick came it was always Christine, his
It was
wife,
Christine, the wife, Robert's wife. Right. Played
who
by Katharine Hepburn.
was so caring of
Yeah.
the family, made sure. And when his sister supposedly had a nervous breakdown, she had been the secretary for Robert Forrest. She had a nervous breakdown. It was Christine who arranged for her to go to a sanitarium so that she could heal.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's like, well, why did she have a nervous breakdown, you
Yeah.
know?
There's another one of those breadcrumbs of and
Yeah,
there's a mystery of really why. Even the brother, who is the guy that is the groundskeeper, the land manager, who was his commanding officer in World War I, who's the little boy is his son.
right.
You know, he doesn't even want to talk about it.
No. I mean, and the very first statement that he makes is, uh, we fought in the war together. And then Steven says, oh, he was your commanding officer. And he goes, no, I was his captain. I
And
was his.
he
Oh,
goes,
you
I
were,
was his. Yeah.
and you were his sergeant? No, I was his captain.
Right, right.
And then I became his gatekeeper.
He goes, I became his gatekeeper.
And it
The
was
roles,
like,
he's like the roles, and he gets this really interesting look on his face, like the roles have
and the
switched.
tone of his
Yeah,
voice
and you can tell he's angry.
yeah, and he just turns away right
Yep,
away and goes
right.
back into it's like, okay,
Uh,
ooh, bells,
yeah,
bells,
what the heck is that? Right, red flags, you know,
Right.
and of course, Steve he's like, what was that?
Yeah, he's really
So, of course,
persistent.
because he's an investigative reporter, he cannot help himself. He's like, I got to get more information here.
Right, right.
And it's right after that that he finds a way to sneak in to the grounds.
Yeah,
And that's the other thing. Nobody really knows what Robert Forrester really did. He just created these committees
right.
and these
Yeah.
these fan base,
And we
right?
find
And
out that,
so then when he sneaks in, it's this enormous mansion.
right.
It's enormous. And you go,
What the
where
heck?
the heck would all that money come from,
Yeah.
right?
And how many acres did she say they
Oh,
had?
I think it
A
might have been
hundred and
1,000.
some.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it was
it
a
might have been
lot of
up close
acres.
to 1,000. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous amount.
yeah.
I
And
mean, how many horses they had in the state. I mean, they
right,
kind of give you this clue on quite the estate that it is.
right.
And then,
And there's a huge house for his mother to
oh
live
yeah, well,
in.
they briefly bring up his mom and they're like, well, no one can talk to her.
Right.
And Steve ends up befriending this young boy who is so devastated. He is sure it's his fault that Robert died.
We don't want to be slaves, do we?
Slaves?
That's what they're fighting for.
There aren't any slaves now.
Not here, maybe, but Europe's full of them. Might be our turn next.
How?
Well, there are so many ways it would take me the rest of the day to try to explain it to you. But the general idea is that they try to get us all confused and scared and sore at each other. And then, before you know it, clamp, the handcuffs are on us. The chains would be on your mind and on your tongue.
Well, what are we gonna do about it?
And so he's got a
Yes.
huge amount of anxiety over that. He's just so
Right.
upset. And, Steve is trying to help him, and they've got the local doctor coming in to try to help him. And
And that's
eventually,
another,
Stephen, huge piece of property, eventually makes it to the house.
yeah. I'm going to say something about the doctor in a little bit because
Yeah, I
that's
want to
another,
talk about
he's
that too.
another clue. Yeah. But
He's another clue
he
for sure.
finally gets to talk to,
Well, he sneaks in. He gets into the house, and he sees her like at this kind of shrine for Robert, putting
right.
flowers there. But because Katharine Hepburn is the actress that she was, you can tell she's so like not grieving sad, but disappointed and almost seems a little frightened.
Yeah. Eh, she is the title. She's the keeper of the flame because later on
Right,
she says
right.
it. She
Yeah.
says, I wanted to keep the image of the man and not let anybody know who he really was.
Well, I mean, the thing that's so crazy is, I mean, the secretary ends up showing up, like, what are you doing here? And he very, very
Right.
protective, which of course is more of those breadcrumbs,
Right.
and just the
Right.
way I love how he observes the house too,
Right.
because the house isn't warm.
Oh no.
And they kind of always got the lights down, and
Yeah.
it's
Lots of
just like this.
shadows.
It's very creepy,
It's kind of creepy.
and not full of life and love.
The
And
other
and
interesting thing is when he first meets Christine, she's all in
she's
white.
wearing white. She's not wearing mourning colors anymore.
Right. She wore them at the funeral, but
Yep,
not
that's about it. And then so they talk, and she's at first, of course, very upset, and then more breadcrumbs because he can tell right away she's trying to hide something.
right.
And she says, "You're not allowed here." That's a great conversation because I don't know how he does it, but he's able to help her to get to an agreement of okay, we can, yeah, we can do a story about my husband. Well, I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay. So he
Yeah.
goes back
And
to,
then the
and the
conversation between
secretary, yeah, go ahead with the secretary conversation.
the secretary and Christine
Yes.
is, have
It's
you,
the,
I want the keys. The
yep,
keys to,
the
later you
keys to
find out
what?
there's this outbuilding, it's called the Arsenal, and it
The
was built
arsenal, right?
and it was built in the 1700s. It's built of stone. and there are no windows, and
Nope.
that's like what? And then
Yeah.
but I want the keys because we need to destroy certain documents,
Yeah, we've
and you're
got to make
like,
sure they get destroyed. We've got to make sure everything gets destroyed.
and
Right.
she's like, I will take care of it.
He's like, I've been working on it. I've been
Yeah,
working on it.
right.
We're getting there. Like basically he just died. Okay, so let's. But then I think it's interesting too when Steve gets back to the hotel,
Hmm.
um, just the conversations he has amongst all the other journalists,
Uh-huh.
because it's almost as if even the journalists,
Yeah.
especially the woman and the guy with the mustache,
Right.
are even going, is he really, could he have really been that perfect?
Right. Exactly. Oh, I forgot to
There's
say,
just, go ahead.
yeah, there's no way. Say that.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, and even the woman who's really attracted to Steve,
Yeah.
you know, she's very cynical about Robert,
Right.
because she
Yeah.
she just knows. She knows there's like, why is no one ever allowed on the property? Why
Right.
is no one ever? I mean, even no one could get close to Robert.
Right.
They made
But
sure when he was
right.
alive, it was always at
Right.
this more than arm's length
Right.
away from
Exactly.
everybody.
Yeah. So
And she,
that's one thing I forgot to say about that feeds into what I forgot to say about the secretary. He tells her because she has turned Stephen away
yeah,
initially.
initially.
And the secretary says, you have to go and give him some access. Otherwise, he's gonna
Right,
dig up the
right. He's
truth.
like, he goes, they'll make them more suspicious if you don't
Yes.
show him something
Right.
and make yourself look open to it. And
Right.
you can tell she's thinking about it like, oh,
I don't want to.
okay. She doesn't really want to.
And we find out later why she doesn't want to. It's
Well, yeah, but
for
we'll
an
talk about
honest
that.
reason, not
Yeah.
a
There's
trying
a
to protect.
huge, but when
Yeah.
she goes to, she meets Steve in town, and she
Yeah.
brings the photo album, and Steve's like, this is not what I want. This isn't
Right.
enough. I want to know more. This is just photos. These are just quick snapshots of his life.
Yeah.
This is not his life.
Yeah.
And she's nervous. She's
She is nervous.
very, very nervous about that whole process of,
But it's
uh,
interesting to find out too that she went to school in Germany.
yes, yes.
I don't know if she met Robert in Germany, but they were in Germany together, and maybe that's on their honeymoon, and maybe that's when he started to kind of get involved in
Yeah, they don't
they
really make it super clear how he was recruited into it. But I know that in the trivia they talked about there was a soldier, a real life man who had for many years been trying to tell his story, how post World War One and leading up to World War Two, the big recruitments
yeah,
that they were trying to get into the American
right, yeah,
soldiers
he was a
into this.
general.
And they did research and found that his story was absolutely the truth.
Yeah, and he resisted. He didn't.
He didn't do it.
Somebody else
Right.
joined, but not he didn't
Yeah, he
join.
said other people had been joining, but and it was once again him trying to warn people, this
Yeah,
is happening. This is a real thing. And people were
yeah,
like, whatever. They're not going
yeah,
to bother us. We're all the
yeah,
way over here.
yeah.
So, yes, you're right. So, that's the beginning of it though, that I think it's interesting that the secretary actually thinks it can be controlled.
I know.
I
And
I find that
whenever
so
he,
interesting that he thinks every little, if you just tell him this much, that's going to be enough. And if okay,
yes,
okay, so that wasn't enough. Okay, now you can just tell him this much, and that'll be enough.
right,
And then they won't come back.
right.
They won't keep trying to come back. And Steve
But
won't. But it's interesting because he ends up befriending this taxi driver, who won't give any of the other journalists a ride. It's so
but he gives him a
hysterical.
ride.
But Steve kind of stands there and looks at him, and the guy's like, "You gonna get in?"
Right.
He's interesting too, because he kind of knows. I think people that live in that immediate community. I
Yes.
think there were enough people that questioned it,
Yeah.
but the youth like he comes back one night and there's these, what, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 young college
I
students.
thought there were like 10, but
And they were
yeah,
just like,
from
oh,
all over the
you know,
country.
the talks he would give, and oh, we would
Right,
just, they just like worshiped him again. Another group of
right.
people worshiping this man.
Yeah.
And once again, the 3 journalists, Steve, the woman, and that guy with the mouth, they're all like,
Yeah, because the two other journalists stay just like Steve does. All the other
right.
journalists leave.
Yeah, they get bored and leave. Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing here, and we've
Yeah.
heard everything. We know he's perfect, kind
Yeah,
of
and
thing.
the three of them are kind of skeptical, but Steve's the only
Right.
one who can get close.
Well, he already got in, and he
Yeah,
gains Catherine, he gains her trust, Christine's
right.
trust.
Yeah.
And then he befriends the young boy.
Yes.
He and the young boy become friends, and they play chess together, and he talks about how Christine was the one who always came because he was curious, why do you worship Robert so much?
Yeah.
And it's just casual conversation. It's nothing that's
Right.
forced.
Right.
And he was like, well, uh, I don't know. He's kind of like, I don't know. Well, did he come play chess with you? No, it was always Christine. And you get the clear
Yeah.
picture too that Christine is the one that helped kind of keep things together.
Right.
She and the secretary always had to, be in step with that.
Yeah.
Now, you also get the impression very quickly that the secretary has not good motives.
Right. Because
You
we
know,
see we
yes,
see him have a can of gasoline out by the arsenal.
right. And
Uh,
he's setting up little things, and he's
right.
always going through stuff. He's always going through
Right.
stuff in the house.
Right.
And then something happens. I can't remember exactly what happens after Steve and the boy play chess, and they mention the Robert's mother.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's
Oh, and
like,
he
he
goes to
goes, she has a mom, she has a mother that lives here. Oh yes, but she's not well, and
and
no one can go see her. She lives in the other original house.
yeah,
She lives in this other house. So of course, what does he do? He goes to investigate and kind of like, oh, and it's a big house too.
I know.
You're like, Jiminy Christmas. But it's the older house.
Right.
Of course, that's the one he kept for her. So it's, once again, it's not a fast-paced movie.
No.
That's the other thing, that's, you just have to pay attention to what's going on that leads
Yeah.
up to, um, and I think it's interesting when, you know, Steve goes and was able to get his way into the house to see the mother. I mean, she's obviously not mentally all, she's
All
got
there.
some sort of mental issue.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe dementia or something like that, but she seems pretty cognitive when Steve comes in, and she just starts talking to him about her son
Right.
and
Now
how,
that was the interesting part because this was the first time I realized this. She talks about she was a cook and she
yes,
had a son.
yes,
She never mentions his father. So
never,
I'm
never.
thinking she was a single mom.
I'm thinking she was a single mom too, who was raising her son, and they were pretty poor,
Hmm.
because she does mention, you know, the sudden financial change that happens because her son brought them out of poverty, and now she lives in a bigger home than she ever worked in. And
Hmm.
she's got these rings, all these
Right.
very big jewels, and this kind of necklace, and you could tell, he did what he could to keep her living the life of luxury. I mean, she
Hmm.
had personal caregivers that he was paying for,
Hmm.
and the house was, for the time that I think that was built, I mean, they kept it immaculate,
Oh yeah.
that home.
Yeah. I mean, it could have probably been a house for a family of 10
Oh, yeah. And
or
then the other
more.
one, the mansion, I would say it probably had more than 20 rooms.
Oh
It was enormous.
yeah. Yeah.
Why would you need a house that big is beyond me.
Yeah, I know.
And they do a really good job of just showing the enormity
Hmm.
of that second house.
Yeah.
every room is just I mean, the entryway in itself could fit a house in it. It was
Yeah,
so huge,
I
you know.
know.
So, and I
Yeah,
thought another thing that was interesting in the main house is the pictures of Robert.
he looked a
There
lot
was no
older.
pictures. There was no there. You didn't really see
No pictures
Christine.
of her.
It
Yeah,
was him.
yeah. And the picture where she's in the first scene where she's putting the flowers
Yes.
uh, underneath the portrait, he looks so much older than
Yeah.
her.
He does seem older than her. I thought so too.
So
And
much
maybe
older.
that's the point, you know, because
Yeah.
she did say, she does tell Steve, you know, I didn't know, I don't know how or when I fell in love with him.
Yeah, and also and once I was married to him, this gradual change, I didn't notice it at first.
Right. And then, but you know, like it's interesting that you kind of go, you almost get the impression by the conversations that they have. Did she ever love him?
Well, I was likening her relationship and Ilsa and Laszlo's her relationship to Robert and Ilsa and Laszlo's in Casablanca, except
Oh,
that
yeah.
Victor Laszlo is this honorable
Right. He
guy.
really is a hero
He
against the
really is
Nazis.
a hero,
Right.
although he
Yeah.
doesn't call himself a hero. He's
Oh,
modest
no. No.
about it,
Right.
but
But you get the impression Robert was not modest about
right.
his
And so
rise
it's this,
in
kind of the
social
same thing.
status.
They admired
Right.
the guys that they married, and they
Right.
thought that was love. And then, well, it was probably really love in Elsa's, but it wasn't the kind of love that she felt for Humphrey Bogart.
Right.
But it was still love. It was
Yeah.
love. But
And I think
not for
she probably
Catherine.
was young and impressionable. I do get
Right.
that. Oh,
Christine. Yeah.
Christine. Yeah, I think she just really was like he almost probably kind of swept her off her feet.
Yes.
I think I get the impression he was very romantic and
He
you
could have
know,
been. Yeah.
and I think that, you know, that was appealing to her. It was like, "Oh my gosh." You know.
Yeah. And so that makes it really sad later when when they're in the uh which I kind of want to show some of that, or at least some stills of that, when they're in near the end of the movie in the what did I call it? The stone building.
Yeah.
But she's telling the whole real story.
Well, you know, cuz you know,
Eh,
Steve cannot stop himself.
I know.
He ends up getting more and more stories and I do believe the real thing that happens is because there's a couple times he tries to approach that armory, but he gets stopped. Something
Yes.
happens and he gets stopped. And the secretary notices he's getting closer to that too, and he
Yes.
does not like that. But then there's more conversation that comes out of what happened with, you know, the woman who ended up that they put his secretary, his female secretary, who they put into
The
the,
sanitarium.
you know, something happened that made her feel unsafe.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Steve's like, I wonder what that is. But
Yes.
I think too, another thing that does not need to be said, but is said, because Steve was spending so much time as a journalist in Europe,
Europe.
I think he might have had a clue, was starting to really get a clue
Yes.
what had happened with Robert.
Yes.
And he knew something had to be said. So, of
Yes.
course, eventually what happens is you see that because she's got this cousin, um,
Right. That
um,
Robert didn't like.
well, and he didn't like Robert either. Anyway, he's a big guy. And he's like, okay, what kind of relationship is that? Well, you figure out at some point the girl gets out of the sanitarium. She's with him, Forrest Tucker. That's his name, Forrest Tucker.
Or stuck.
And they're in love and they've been in love. And he too does not like Robert because he knows what she knows, but everyone's been told to keep this big secret.
Yes.
And
Okay, so
he just wants her to be free. So she's free. They're going to get married. That part of the story gets wound up very nicely.
and Steve realizes that the cousins aren't the ones that have the romantic relationship.
Right. Because at
But
first he thinks that. Right.
right. So, but now I want to go back to what I was going to say about the arsenal. When she starts telling him the real story, she says, he held me in his arms, wanting me to produce sons, which I could not give him, and the hatred the hatred in his eyes, and
Yeah.
it was like, and she's trying,
Yeah,
but
she was
she
frightened.
explains, I
Right.
needed to preserve the image
Right.
of
Right.
Robert Forrester, so that because the real truth would devastate people.
Right.
And that's where Stephen says, oh no, they need to know. They
They
need
need
to
to know.
know.
Well, and it's interesting because, the doctor that comes to visit the young
Oh, the
boy, he and
doctor. I love.
Steve have a little conversation
Mhm.
and the doctor is kind of like, well, was Robert everything that everyone thought he was? Because the doctor was close enough because he examined the boy's sister before she was taken to the
Yes.
sanitarium. He's now, and he's kind of like, he doesn't say the words, but he gives a strong indication there is much more going on
Yeah.
than they're letting the public know.
Yeah. And I think
And I
he
think
says
he kind of
something.
almost says something to Steve, like maybe, it's time for people to know.
Well, he says something like, yeah, Forrester was really good at getting people to love him
Yeah.
and admire him, but not everybody did. In other words,
Well,
I wasn't on that
yeah,
team.
I
Yeah.
wasn't all that keen on him, and not everybody was,
Right.
and he's kind of like, hmm,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think the doctor probably saw things too.
Yes.
I think he
Because
can't help but see things. And
especially
I'm
since he
thinking,
also attended to his mom for a while.
oh, he tended to the mother for a while and to the young girl, and they probably said things to him. But
Hmm.
as a doctor, you have to keep that confidential.
That's right.
And I think he did a very good job of that. I think he knew I can't go around blabbing this because they're saying it to me
Right.
confidentially.
Right.
So I have to be careful what it is I'm saying, but he definitely let Steve know there's way more to the story.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he absolutely, and I think what happens with Christine is she's just exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I'm a little lost.
I'm lost too. I've got to find my way. At first, I thought I'd keep everything just as he left it, but I see now that was wrong. Nothing can stay as we leave it. All we can hope is that someone who loves us will put away our playthings tenderly.
And our follies and our failures, too.
Yes, and those.
because the secretary drives it into her again, because you see one time she's burning papers. And that's when Steve looks out. He's talking to the secretary in the big house, and he looks out and he goes, "What's that building over there? Oh, that's the arsenal. That's not important." But yet there's smoke coming from the chimney.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, "Nobody's in there?" But Steve doesn't say anything. He's just like, okay. There, something's, and she's just throwing papers, all these stacks of papers into the fire.
Right.
And, she starts to,
And
throw
maps, she's taking maps
maps
off the
and
wall.
things down. And,
Mhm.
then of course Steve interrupts her. And then you just, again, there's other stuff that happens in between. And the secretary's like, basically burn the place down.
Yeah. But this, we forgot the part about the horse.
Oh
They,
yeah, that's a good one too.
the doctor says, well, yeah, I kind of have to be, if I want to make
Yeah,
a
small town
living.
doctors, yes.
So he's the vet and he's the doctor. And so he's administering to one of the horses
Yep.
who pulled a tendon or something. And it happens to be the horse that she was riding the day that Robert died.
Yeah, and she
And
said it threw a shoe and hurt its
and
tendon.
the storm made him
Yeah.
made it run away. Well, so the other man reporter who stayed, the one with the little mustache, he's one day he's out there looking at the bridge
Yep.
and taking notes and stuff. And it's the day that Stephen and Christine have gone on a horseback ride,
Yep.
right when the doctor has been fixing the horse's leg. and he finds he's already suspected something's going
Well,
on. So
because remember, I forgot this part too. Christine came in on he and the mother when they were having a conversation.
right,
And the mother, you killed my son.
right,
You let him die. We have to tell everybody you let him die. And of course you can see the guilt on her face, on Christine's face, but she's just like, you know, that's not true. It was the storm. No one could stop the bridge
right,
from collapsing.
right.
Blah, 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 all this
That's
stuff.
all on the same day when they're riding.
Yes. And that's when he's like,
So he goes
hmm,
down there to the bridge, and what
yeah,
does he find? The
the
horseshoe.
horseshoe. Yep.
He
And then he goes back. He doesn't tell
tell the other
anybody.
reporter.
No, he doesn't tell anybody. He puts it in his pocket and then he goes back to the horse and it's the shoe that fits the horse.
Right.
And then he starts to put it all together. And then they go back into the arsenal and she's continuing to try to destroy things and you can tell she just can't take it anymore. She just has to tell him everything.
Yeah. And that's when she shows him, she opens up this thing, and there's like
It's a
uh
huge pantry.
it's like files and a safe where the money was kept and all
Yeah.
this stuff. And she pulls out this notebook and she shows him, this is the plan for making stirring up the
Yeah.
Ku Klux Klan or the blacks or the Jews or the who and
And then
making
she
them
said,
fight each other.
Essence of their plan. Here are some articles ready for release to stir up all the little hatreds of the whole nation against each other. This was an article to be published in an anti-Semitic paper attacking the Jews. This was to be used in the Farmers' Gazette to stir them up against the city dwellers. Here's one attacking the Catholics. Anti-Negro, anti-labor, anti-trade union. Subtle appeal to the Ku Klux Klan.
and she showed all the other books and she goes, every single thing here is a plan for something.
Yes.
For the slowly breaking down of societies.
Right.
And
Of the
and
United States
the United
society.
States, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, I mean, you don't have to say it, she says, and you get it. You get, but it's this all meticulously filed. But,
Right.
you know, the one thing is you can see the secretary out there
Yeah.
looming around and he locks them in and he starts the fire, but she has already confessed everything. She's like, yeah, I didn't tell him about the bridge. I knew it had to be stopped somehow.
Outburst. Suddenly it was clear to me. I knew that something had to be done. Their moment had come. Saboteurs were waiting instructions from Robert Forrest, and he was on his way to give them. Clean death in the rain was the best thing that could happen to Robert Forrest. Send him by the bridge, I prayed. Let him be killed, that he may not mock those who have trusted him and destroy them as he has destroyed me.
All of
Right.
this madness. I knew it had to stop.
Yeah.
But I didn't want anyone to know what he was up to. I wanted them to believe in the hero.
Right. Now that's the cool. That's the interesting thing, is when I saw that whole scene of her pulling out a notebook and here's the plan for how to
Oh yeah.
stir up hate
Oh
in
yeah.
this group and stir up hate in this group. And it was like, oh man, that's Project
Oh yeah.
2025.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing that's interesting too is I'm going to say, because I went back and saw it real quickly. The secretary starts a fire to burn
Oh
the
yeah,
place down and to have them obviously be in it to die.
right.
And Jamie was watching it with me and he goes, well, what about all the stuff in that? I said, it's a safe. That evidence in all those files she was pulling out, they're not going to be destroyed because it's a big safe.
Right.
And he goes, oh.
That's what
And
I was
so
thinking too.
to assure myself, I went back. I went, oh yeah, no, it's just one big safe.
And she had, because she did close it up again,
She did.
and that's how he gets all the information for
Right.
the book he writes about her
Right. Well, and the thing
and
is,
the articles.
that's when he says to her, we have to tell. This story has to be.
Yes.
And she realizes he's right.
Yes.
She knows because he says, if we don't get this information out, how can people be aware and be ready?
Yes.
We have to prepare people for this.
Yes.
So then, you know, there's this little opening and the
Right.
secretary is listening to the entire conversation, and he's got this gun, and he shoots Christine and kills her.
Yeah. Now, the reason they did that is because it was the code and she had to die because she let her
Because
husband
she let her
die. And
husband die.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But I was gonna say they this movie comes out in 42. In 46, a movie comes out called The Stranger, and it's Edward G. Robinson
Such a good movie.
hunting down this Nazi guy
Yep,
who has come to the United States and he's infiltrated. They're
yep,
trying to start up the whole Nazi thing
yep,
again.
yep.
Then in a movie we already talked about, Best Years of Our Lives,
Uh-huh.
that scene in the diner when that guy confronts Homer.
He's got his flag on his suit lapel, and he confronts Homer about what a crock and how we got duped entering the war. That's not Americanism. And he kept
Yeah.
saying Americanism, Americanism, America
So
first.
there are
Right.
little whispers of how they kind of went underground and they were
Yep.
trying and that's why we got where we are now, and that's what Rachel Maddow's book
Yes.
prequel is
Yes.
all about is
Well, and Heather Cox Richardson, I read her book, How the South Won the Civil War.
mm-hmm,
That has always been here. It didn't have to come from Europe.
right,
The bigotry and keeping people of us, and even a
right.
class, it didn't matter if you were white. If you didn't fit in a certain mold, then you were also thought of as lower than,
You were white
and you
trash.
weren't treated well either, and you
Right,
were trash.
right.
So, and that's why when we came over in the New World and we ran into the indigenous people, what did we do to make them evil? They were savages
Right.
because they hardly wear any clothes and look at the way they live, and they can't speak our language. So it's no surprise that it would be easy to recruit people into that,
Yeah. Now,
because it was already here.
yeah,
And we're Europeans anyway.
and
It
I
came
love
here.
what some of the even Heather Cox Richardson, I think, has said, it's not going to work here because, first of all, it's such a big country, and
Yes.
each state has its own legislature. They pass their
Right.
own laws. They have their own governor. Them trying to take over,
Right.
the fascists trying to take over our country is not going to be as easy, maybe, as it was in some of these smaller countries.
Oh yeah, because the other countries, I mean, we're a country and we're enormous. Their countries over there were very small.
Well,
Very small.
relatively speaking, yeah.
Relatively small compared to
Yeah.
what we've got going. And I think it's interesting too how, the talk has been now, well, there was only 12% of people that were slaves. Well, that
I
still
don't,
doesn't make it okay.
I know.
Do you
Well,
want
like,
to discount those people that were their families and the wounds of your
oh, yeah,
ancestors? I mean, no, of course you don't want to do that.
I know.
So, but that's that slow way they pick it. Well, see, you're just overreacting,
Yeah,
and that's kind of how it starts,
right.
is the overreacting.
Right. I can kind of understand how it all happened in Germany after World War One because
Yes.
the other countries just really came down hard on them and their economy was
And
bad. And I
bankrupted,
mean,
almost bankrupted Germany.
oh
Oh yeah.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
kind of understand how that all
Yeah.
happened.
I get it too.
And maybe it wasn't until much later when things got rolling that some people went, "Oh, wait a minute," because there were even among his officers people who were trying to stop him, who were trying to
Oh,
kill him because
yep.
they
Yep.
went, "Oh, this is not good. We no."
The Valkyrie, that's the real
Oh yeah,
story.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
all of that is very real. And I think, like people now that are really starting to wake up to what started to happen here. Even at the protests and stuff, you've got all those people who used to really support what's going on now, and now they're like, how could I have been fooled? I feel
Yeah.
horrible. And it's like, No, we're not going to judge you on that. We
You
get it
woke
when we
up.
get it.
You
You
woke up.
know,
Thank heaven.
you woke up and now you know you can heal from this.
Yeah.
That's the point that those of us, we're not going to exclude you because of what I mean, they did a good job
Yeah.
of convincing you,
Yeah.
that you were the oppressed ones because of blah 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 that happens over here. But that's the point of how the South won the Civil War. Rachel Maddow's book. I mean, book after book after book, and movies after movies, and the book that the man wrote about this story.
Yeah.
There's the point they're making is it's never too late to wake up.
Yeah.
It's never too late to realize how important unity for everyone is. We all matter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
that's what Christine's story is
yes.
in this is she felt so important for people to she got it mixed up though.
Yeah.
She was a little mixed up because she was caught up in his whole energy.
Well, I think
And I
she
think
did
he felt very isolated.
well that, and also I think she knew the discomfort
Yes.
of finding out the truth,
Yeah, she sure
and
did.
she wanted to spare people
Yeah.
that while helping them to see the ideals that they thought they were supporting.
Yes. Well, and see, and that's how they pick away at you. And that's what they do such a good job of. And I know I'm going to get this quote wrong, but I think it might be James Baldwin, but it could be um, Martin Luther King as well. If you convince people that the poor and the people that are outcasts are the ones that why you don't have enough,
Hmm.
and you make them beneath you and you feel like you're above, that's slowly how you chip away at it. It's
Yes.
always someone else's fault that makes you poor. And it's the poorest. It's the people of color. It's the immigrants. It's the blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're spewing this stuff out. So if it makes you feel bigger and you can rise above more than what they're, because they're holding you down, then you'll be just fine.
Yes. So that's the whole point, is that are you going to live a life of inner
Right.
exploration
Right.
and trying to be the best person you can and fulfill your dreams and make the world a better place, or are you going to blame everybody outside of you
Right.
for whatever's going on in your
Well,
life?
I mean, because really what that does, without saying it, is it takes away any kind of accountability for your choices that you made.
Exactly.
Instead of going, okay, it's always blaming someone else, that means you don't have to look at yourself
Right.
and the choices that you made for your position that you're in life and
Right.
why you might not have enough money or have the house that you want or whatever,
Right.
but we're figuring it out.
We are.
It has taken centuries.
And it's not just the United States that's figuring it
No,
out.
no. It's well, because I love British television and British movies. When there was, when we watched the series Endeavor, they showed what was happening in the 60s. Make Britain great again.
Right. Yeah.
That's the same thing that was happening there that happens here. Make America great again.
Right.
And the thing that's interesting too with America, that's not a new catchphrase. That's what Ronald Reagan used.
I know.
He used the same dang slogan.
Yeah.
So, they knew how to pick, and really what it comes down to is just the critical thinking.
Right.
And that's why it's the same thing that's why they didn't want, the indigenous children and they didn't want them to be educated.
Or they wanted to educate them
They wanted to
they
educate
wanted
them and
them to
indoctrinate their
assimilate.
own, just assimilate
Right.
to the white way. we're going to
Right.
destroy your language, but we're going to teach you ours, because
Right.
we thought, they still thought, and they still think it now, that it's possible to erase a race of people.
I know. Well,
And their traditions and their language, and you just
yeah,
kind of go,
but that's happened all over the world. That's not
it's
just happened in the
happened.
United
Oh,
States.
yes. And it's still
Yeah.
happening in a big way in a lot of countries too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still very much happening. And, I don't know when that isolationist is going to go. I don't know if that's ever going to go away, that thinking for some people. I've always kind of had to chuckle though. And it's all because of Dad. Dad would watch the news and they were talking about small government, small government, small government. And Dad goes, what a crock.
Yeah.
There's no such thing in the United. We're too huge for that.
Yeah.
And what that really means is we want to isolate you so we can get you to think the way we do.
Yeah. But now the thing is, the Republicans always talked about states' rights, states' rights, state rights.
Right.
Well, now states' rights are coming back to bite them.
It is. Because I just want the state to figure that out. Well, guess what? When the state's figured out, you don't get what you want from that, do you?
That's right.
You
Not all the
know,
time. Sometimes they do, but not all the time.
not all the time.
Yeah.
And now what's currently happening is it is so hitting everybody in the face, because all these natural disasters that have happened in these destitute, destitute states and
Mhm.
areas, and they're getting no help.
I know.
And though the governors and people thought we're going to get help because we voted for him,
Mhm.
and none of those things happened. And that's really what started happening with all dictators, all kings, all queens. It broke down to, I don't care about you.
Right.
And that's why uprisings have happened. That's why revolutions were happening, because the people started seeing, you don't give a poop about me,
Right.
and I matter.
Right.
But, as we've talked about before, human beings learn through tragedy and hardship,
Right.
and so at the end of this movie, when she dies, they show all the newspaper stories, because all this, I mean, the people who care that lived on the property saw that the place was in flames,
Yeah.
and they're rushing to go help because they all know what's going on all of a sudden.
Right.
And her cousin, the
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 doctor,
gatekeeper, the doctor, the
the
taxi
gatekeeper.
driver is driving them,
Yeah.
they're all going to rush to help. And what's the blessing that happens? The rains just
Right.
come down in sheets, and that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, all those group of people knew, but they
Mhm.
too thought it was best to keep the secret.
Yeah.
And I think they too struggled with, is it good to have the hero and you think he's the hero that saved us?
Yeah.
And how do you destroy the hero's story?
Right. Now there are other movies that are sort of like that, like Meet John Doe.
Oh gosh, I love that
And
movie.
and how many times in movies did it say, if we had the right government, and these are rich people talking, if we had the right
Right,
government, we could make
right.
even more money.
Well, I mean, I just recently saw another really great one, Mr. Deeds.
Oh yeah.
Um, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah.
Those are those
Mhm.
really great truth-telling stories.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is new stuff that we have.
No.
The storytellers have always been out there to help tell the truth.
Right.
And that's why they don't want us to read. They don't want us to watch certain things. They want to control it, because they're afraid that truth information will come out, and that
Right.
you will critically think, and you will start to realize, aha, wait a minute. When really the thing that's the saddest is that they actually think they can have everything,
I know.
because eventually they would eat at each other too.
Yeah.
And they've proven that time and time again.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to be in power. They all think that they're going to fool one person into thinking they're going to let them be in power, because it was happening in the Nazi party too.
Yeah. Well, it happened to Julius Caesar.
It happened to Julius Caesar. Hello, this is the story, the fall of the Roman Empire. Good God, you know?
Right.
I mean, everybody wants to, that's in those groups want to be in charge.
And
And
now
I
we have,
got the feeling that's what was happening with Robert too, as well. I wouldn't have been surprised if they could have also made this story where he was starting to get more power, and they would have to find a way to eliminate him
right,
because he was getting a little too big for his britches.
right,
And I think those things, when you want a community, when you want the village to, and the unity, there's no ego involved for just one person to be in charge,
yeah,
because we want everyone to win.
right,
We want
right,
everyone to have food, to have jobs that you can afford your home and your
right,
cars and your vacations and your clothes and your everyday life,
right.
And I find it so bizarre that to this day, we still have people that don't give a crap if you have those things.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
And I just go, how does that happen inside of you?
I know. I wonder
Where
that
you
too.
believe that you're above someone else
Yeah.
who is not
I,
like you.
yeah, I don't
And
get that either.
reading that story about Charles Lindbergh was just really, I mean, like they said, it didn't take people around the world to lose respect for him because he did not keep it a secret.
Yeah. It didn't
He
take
made
him
it,
long, you mean?
no, people
Yeah.
started going, okay,
Wh-
so, and
What the
really
heck?
what they said at the end of this thing I read about him was he became this guy that did this first flight, and then he became a guy, oh, it was just a guy flying an airplane.
Yeah.
Because guess what? We all can do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, it went from big to this little thing.
Yeah.
And it in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I feel hope from with Heather Cox Richardson and Rachel Maddow and, Stephen Colbert and, all these people, Jon Stewart, who's one of my
Yeah.
all-time favorites. And, they're the ones that let us know that kind of authoritarian, it doesn't last.
Right. And
And
it
they
can't last
remind
very
us,
long now with
right,
social media and
right, that's exactly it. Social media has changed everything.
yep.
And the reason why is because they think, okay, well, you can't write that down. Well, guess what? It's being recorded
Yeah, I know.
and it
Right.
can be shown again and
And
again and
again and
again and
again.
again.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
those kind of documentations that, people forget about.
Yeah. So these movies that we have talked about, especially the one that we're talking about today, but the
Yes.
ones that I mentioned too, they were trying to be like the social media of today
I think so
and
too. I do think
and
movies were
and
that.
set the
Yes.
alarms going
Yes.
off.
Books and movies.
And
Books and
and
movies.
I didn't even include all the movies. I mean, there's a
Oh, there's
bunch
a
of
huge
them.
list. Right. And but I do think it's interesting that pre-World War II, the Republicans absolutely hated this movie and didn't want it to be shown.
And
But
they
yet,
hated
Best Years of Our
FDR.
Lives comes out
Oh, right.
and they can't say enough about it.
Right. Right.
And I think it was one of those, there was enough of them that saw it
That
during the
woke up.
war and really hit the face of fascism.
Yeah.
And once it really soaked in, they went, no,
Oh.
no. Enough of them said no.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening again. We're going through the entire planet. We're going through a huge awakening.
Yeah.
And that's why we talk about these stories, because you and I want to be a part of that. We want to aid people and be a partnership with us to be a part of our growth.
Yeah. Right.
And that's why we're here.
Right.
I think you and I understand that important purpose of that. And I'm so grateful for our parents that instilled that in all
Oh,
four of
yeah.
us.
Yeah, and you know, analyzing the movies and analyzing
Right.
all aspects of it, the body language, the vocal, the facial expressions, and do they match? Do
Right.
they match?
Right.
I have used that out in the real world so many times. I've used the critical thinking.
Right.
There's just so many things that I have used that in my real life that came from analyzing stories, not
Yeah.
just movies. It
Yeah.
started off with movies with us, but all kinds of stories.
I think there's another movie. I don't know if it's on Rachel Maddow's list. One of Dad's favorite movies, Bad Day at Black Rock.
Oh
Another Spencer Tracy, another amazing cast. Robert Ryan, one of the best bad guys ever.
yeah, right.
Robert Ryan in real life was a teddy bear, but boy, could he play a bad guy.
Hmm.
And that's one of those another one of those movies that it was post World War II, and it was Spencer Tracy's character. It was his job to go hand out these medals that had been distributed. Well, it's this little small. Is it Nevada?
I can't remember where
I
it
can't remember
is,
either. Anyway, we'll have to do this movie sometime
but
because he's going to
it was
give
a Japanese American guy.
Japanese American man living in this small community, ran a
Right.
restaurant. He was one of the chefs or something, and he's gone missing.
Yeah.
So these are important stories that need to be told.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and I think you're right. I think back in the day of these movies, before we had social media and all we had was tabloids, you
Hmm.
know, it was up to the reporters and the journalism and filmmaking and the books to tell the
Right.
stories.
Right. Yeah.
And they did a really good job.
Yeah. They
But
did.
interestingly enough, I mean, you can tell that some of the people that were even in this movie, Katharine Hepburn being one of them, was like, okay, this movie's kind of boring. Let's do something with it. And I imagine now, as we entered World War II and all the stuff, she probably was like, oh my gosh, this story is so huge,
Yeah.
you know?
But
But
I love that she was very opinionated. But whenever somebody challenged her, she would go, "Oh, okay, yeah, maybe
oh no,
I."
she loved to have the conversation.
Oh yeah,
She did.
yeah.
That's why I think she and Spencer Tracy, you know, and the Lauren Bacall and
Humphrey
uh,
Bogart.
Humphrey Bogarts, you know, they were the super liberals before the time it was to be super,
Mm.
because there were plenty of people who were all in on, you know, the McCarthy trials, and they weren't going to have it.
Right,
They didn't want to have. They were like, this is wrong
right,
to do this to people with no proof of
right,
anything,
right,
you know, but it was just fear based. And that's
right.
what all this is. You know, I think the Robert, who we never see his face, but the painting, all we see is the painting of
Yeah,
Robert Forrest, is they work on your fears
right.
really well.
Yeah.
They help, you know, bring that up and bring it up and bring it up. And, you know, what is Star Wars about?
Hmm.
And, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
You know, we were talking about even modern day stories, Hunger Games,
right.
all about the oppression and the decadence of the 1%. And we were
Yeah,
talking about it the other day because Shane asked me, you know, what's your favorite movies? I said, well, it depends on what genre. It depends on what era you're talking about. I said, I have such a huge amount of movie lists from classic films to now.
yeah.
And, you know, Hunger Games came up, and I said, one of the things that I think is so profound is I think it's kind of one of those warning stories too.
Hmm. Yeah,
You know, uh, this is what's starting to happen here, people.
yeah.
And we're not
Right.
careful, we're going to start having the Hunger Games. Well, guess what? That's
Yeah,
almost what they're talking about creating.
yeah.
People don't know that. People go, no, they're not. No, they
Yes,
are.
they are.
They are.
Yeah,
and that's that, you know, the whole overeating, all the ultra rich and their whole, and then they could, you know, take a pill to vomit it. Oh, and then overindulge again. I mean, that was their way of life.
right,
Excess, 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 and then blah, and then
right.
do it again. You know, I mean, wow. That is, you know, okay. Some people see it as extreme, but is it? I don't know. if we sat back and kind of got complacent with it, maybe not.
Yeah.
And that's what I think this author of this book was doing, is the forewarning, knowing these things were going on.
Yeah, right.
And it's not some fairy tale story,
right.
because
Yeah.
it absolutely was and is continuing to happen.
Right. Exactly.
And your friend that you talked to and said that we're a couple of rebels, well, I'm glad I am.
Yeah, really.
I am grateful that I am, because I don't want to sit back and think I don't have to be a part of it, because that it would be fooling myself.
Yes, right.
Because
Yeah.
I care, you care, we care, and that's why it seems like, oh yeah, they're just doing this cute thing about classic films, but it's so much more than that.
Yes, it is. So the next movie we're going to talk about is The Razor's Edge. It's a book that it's another one of those juxtaposition books where
Yep.
or movies where you have the rich, the middle class, and the poor, and then there's this person who goes off on this spiritual journey, and it's based on a book by um Somerset Maugham, and I've read the book and seen the movie, and they're both great. So
yeah, and it was so good, although the original is my favorite. Bill Murray loved the book and the movie so much, he made a Razor's Edge version.
yes,
Because it impacted him so much.
yeah. I
But
did watch his version, but I didn't like it as much as the original.
No, I didn't like it as much, but I'm touched at why he wanted to be a part of that.
Right. I know. Yeah.
I love that this is another one of our newer things coming up, is independent media, independent films. I remember way back when independent movies were whatever, the studios tried to play them off, the big studios, and Nicolas Cage won an Academy Award for being an independent film. And he said, independent films are our future.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
And people were like, okay. And look at, so much of the stuff that we love are independent films.
Yeah.
And these directors are just so phenomenal. Shane just loves watching independent films because they are so interesting.
They are. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's becoming a bigger deal too is documentaries. And you know who we have to thank for that? Ken Burns.
Yep, we do. We do.
I have watched some documentaries, and the first thing some of these documentarians say is, Ken Burns is my hero.
That's so cool.
He helped me want to tell people stories.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love these inspirational things that happen, that move us forward, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that's what you and I can do here.
Right. Yeah.
Is create a community of fun conversations that help us grow.
Yeah. Right.
And this movie is really, like you said, yeah, it was made in 1941, aired in 1942, but it's a current story.
Yeah, it is a current story.
This is not it's not like, oh, so out of touch,
Right.
It is not out of touch.
Right.
It did.
And neither is The Razor's Edge. So I can't wait.
Razor's Edge. Oh,
can't wait for us to talk about that one next.
So, we have fun doing this, as you can tell.
Yes, so come join us. Join our Facebook community. Join our channel here, and like it and share it with other people, and go watch the movies that we talk about.
I know we pretty much told you the movie, but you have to see it because it's very impactful and it's a story that matters.
It is. Yeah.
It really does matter. Even some of the storylines in it that don't seem important, they're important in the story. The mother's story, the young boy's story, his sister's story, it all matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So until next time, bye.
Bye.